Today, the United States of America stands as one of the most powerful nations in the world. But this nation did not begin with power, wealth, or influence. It began with resistance, it began with courage, and it began with a war. Before there was a United States, before there was a president, before there was even a national flag, there were 13 colonies stretched along the eastern coast of North America. These colonies were controlled by the British Empire, ruled by King George III, the most powerful monarch of his time. The colonists lived on British land, followed British laws, and paid British taxes. But they had no voice in the British Parliament. Decisions that affected their daily lives were made thousands of miles away without their consent. This injustice gave birth to a powerful idea that would change history forever: no taxation without representation. After the French and Indian War, Britain was deeply in debt. To recover financially, the British government imposed new taxes on the American colonies. The Stamp Act, the Townshend Acts, and later the Tea Act placed heavy financial pressure on ordinary colonists. At first, protests were peaceful, petitions were written, assemblies were held. But Britain responded with force, not compromise. In 1770, tensions exploded in Boston when British soldiers fired into a crowd of civilians, killing several colonists. This event became known as the Boston Massacre, and it shocked the colonies. 3 years later, in 1773, colonists dressed as Native Americans boarded British ships and dumped tons of tea into Boston Harbor. This bold act of protest became known as the Boston Tea Party. Britain responded harshly. The port of Boston was closed. Colonial self-government was restricted. British troops were sent in greater numbers. By 1775, it was clear that peace was no longer possible. In April of that year, British troops marched toward the towns of Lexington and Concord to seize colonial weapons. Colonial militias stood in their way. Shots were fired. No one knows who fired first, but history remembers it as the shot heard round the world. The American Revolutionary War had begun. At the start of the war, the odds were overwhelming. Britain had the strongest navy on earth, a professional army, and vast resources. The colonies had farmers, shopkeepers, and volunteers. Many soldiers lacked proper training, weapons, and even shoes. Yet the colonists had something Britain underestimated: determination. In July of 1776, the colonies made a bold and dangerous decision. They formally declared independence from Great Britain. Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, stating that all men are created equal and are endowed with unalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. From that moment on, this was no longer a protest. It was a fight for survival as a new nation. George Washington was appointed commander of the Continental Army. He faced constant challenges: lack of supplies, low morale, and repeated defeats. But Washington understood that winning the war did not require defeating Britain in every battle. It required endurance. The turning point came in 1777 at the Battle of Saratoga. American forces defeated a major British army, proving that Britain was not invincible. This victory convinced France to join the war on the American side. French support changed everything. France provided money, weapons, soldiers, and naval power. Spain and the Netherlands later followed. The final decisive battle came in 1781 at Yorktown, Virginia. British General Cornwallis found himself trapped. French ships blocked escape by sea, while American and French forces surrounded the British army on land. With no way out, Cornwallis surrendered. The war was effectively over. In 1783, Britain officially recognized the independence of the United States through the Treaty of Paris. Against all odds, America had won its first war. This victory did more than create a nation. It inspired revolutions around the world. It proved that ordinary people could challenge powerful empires. It showed that freedom was worth fighting for. Every American victory that followed traces its roots back to this moment in history. The moment when 13 colonies stood together, faced the greatest empire of their time, and won. The American Revolutionary War was not just America's first victory, it was the birth of an idea that would shape the modern world.